Hi. In this segment, I'm going to talk to you about how to not behave aggressively when you're participating in a group discussion. Now, from all the things that we've talked about in the previous videos, you must have gotten an idea or a fair idea of what constitutes a good behavior. Keep in mind that a lot of it will depend on what you say and how you behave, but then there are some times when behavior alone is not responsible for how you're being assessed. It's also your body language. Now, I separate behavior and body language because what your outward appearance is doing and what your words and your expressions are doing are sometimes two different things. And you might remember that before I talked to you about how only 20% of what you really feel gets translated onto your facial expressions. Now, that's not entirely true when it comes to your physical attributes. Whether it's your hand gestures, whether it's the way that you're sitting, whether even it's the way that you look at someone. So I'll give you a quick example. Say that you're having a really passionate discussion about the inequality in wages for different genders in India. It's a very common topic, and you must have seen it in records for many B schools for all these years in the past decades. It's common because it is sensitive enough that somebody will definitely have an opinion on it, and it's also lucrative enough because the problem is still not solved. Now, if this discussion is going strong, and there's somebody, let's say, sitting on your right, and they say something to the effect that gender equality has nothing to do with wages and inequality in wages, it's actually about individuals and how people work at different places. Now, say that this is completely in opposition of what you think, and you just don't agree. Now, there are two ways in which you can respond to that. A good way would be to say, well, I'm sure that that's what you believe, what I think is, and then go on with your point. This is a fair, observant, and neutral way of saying that you're right in your place and I'm right in mine. An aggressive person, or a person who's too eager to express their point over and above the others, would do this. They would do a double take, that's what we call it. Okay, the moment the person finishes speaking their point, they would be like glaring at them. And that's bad, because you're not, that person who just made the point has already made it. They're not waiting for just your response. But by glaring at the other person or staring at them and letting the moderator and all the other participants notice your expression, you've just established yourself as a really aggressive person. And that's never good. But that's just a very small example. Other behaviors which can be accounted as aggression are getting up from the chair or being a little shifty in the chair. So once again, I will explain it to you with kind. Say that there is something particularly sensitive being talked about in terms of religion and how religion is really the political party in India. Okay, this is a debate that you will find once again in many social platforms, especially now that religion is driving a lot of problematic activities. I don't want to go into that. That's a different can of worms, but it's a topic that is fairly common these days in group discussions. So say that some people are expressing their opinions, some of them may be very religious, and some of them may be taking offense to the fact that other people are challenging religious notions just because some of the people are taking an extremist point of view of religion and doing certain problematic activities. So while you are not getting a chance to speak, okay, there are ways that you can express yourself with just your body language. If other people from both the sides are talking and there's a cloud of discussion that is rising in front of you and you're just waiting for your turn to speak, one way of sitting it out is to simply keep looking here and there and keep nodding and keep giving verbal nods. And if you disagree with someone, say something like, I don't think I agree right now. Or if you do agree with someone, you can say something like, oh, that's a really good point, I didn't think of that. I've told you this before as well. The other way in which you will be aggressive, or you will be shifty, or you will be a little jittery just to get your point across, is that everybody else is talking, and you have to imagine that I'm sitting in in a group of 9 or 10 people, they're all talking, and I'm going like this. Okay, now what I've done is I've expressed that I'm just not comfortable. I'm not comfortable listening to anyone. I am actually not listening to anyone. Okay, I'm not comfortable with anything that's happening around, and I'm not participating in a discussion. I'm simply waiting for everybody else to shut up so that I can talk. That is aggression. Okay, that's not appreciated. It registers itself as a very non-friendly, non-amiable kind of hostile behavior, and it is definitely going to make a dent in your overall profile before your personal interview. Now, these two are just really quick examples of how you can be perceived as a slightly aggressive person, and I'll give you a couple more examples just to really drive the point home. One of them is a hand gesture, and when I show you what that hand gesture is, you will really understand how bad it sounds, how bad it looks when you're in a group of people who are all at the same level, by the way. And the hand gesture is of this, the Jesus, the Lord gesture, the politician's gesture as well, baith jaiye, that kind of thing. Now, I'm sure that most of you are right now thinking back on your behavior and thinking, no, I don't do this. This is not me. This is somebody else. Now, maybe it's not yet. Maybe you've not been through enough discussions, and maybe you haven't had enough experience, or maybe you just haven't noticed yet. But you would be surprised at how many people actually end up doing this kind of thing in a discussion. And when this happens is when, once again, you are in a scenario where everybody's talking at each other and everybody's just in a moment of, you know, frenzy, and there's a lot of passionate discussion happening. And in the middle of that, let's say you have a really, really brilliant point to make and it just cannot be missed, and you think that it's just going to take the quality of the discussion so much higher. It's all fine, maybe. But the way that you bring it up is by slightly getting up and saying, okay, all right, but I want to say. Now, the moment you do that, everybody will either ignore you, which will be really badly reflecting on you later, or even worse, they will stop and look at you. If they do that, I guarantee you that it's only a 50% chance that you will still maintain your composure enough to present that point really well. 50% chance is that you will lose your nerve, and because you suddenly have so much attention, you're just going to end up fumbling and mumbling and not making that point at all. So the moral of the story is never do this. This is insulting. Okay, it also makes you look like you're trying to control the environment, which is really not your job. Okay, and a lot of the times it puts you at risk of losing the point that you initially set out to make. And my final point about gestures and body language is about head shakes and head nods. You see, not only across the world, but especially in India, we use our head nods and head shakes for a variety of purposes. In fact, sometimes I'm really confused because I ask my students something, and if they really vigorously want to agree, they do like this, that yes, this is correct. And I'm always confused, and I always check with them, do you mean yes or no? And they say yes. So, jokes apart, I mean, I'm just saying that our head nods and our eyebrows, they express a lot of things, a lot of opinions that we don't really have to always say yes or no to. And one of them is looking down and kind of smiling to yourself and going like this, like. Now, once again, this is a little difficult for you to relate to right now because I'm just sitting on a couch by myself and going like this at random. But imagine that you are in a group of people and somebody's saying something, and maybe they're wrong, maybe they're very wrong, okay? But just by sitting by yourself and instead of pointing it out to them politely, just going like, that's not right, okay? The kind of impression that you're leaving on the other people is that of being a judgmental person, okay? And whether you're right, whether you're wrong, whether you're really educated, erudite, well-spoken, politically correct, whoever you are, if you are expressing your dissent, you're expressing your disagreement by just quietly nodding to yourself like you're slightly better than the other person or all the others present there, you've just set yourself up in a hostile position once again, and you shouldn't do that. Okay, remember that it's a group discussion. All of you are at that point at the same level, regardless of whether you have people who are younger than you are, people who are older than you are, with more experience, less experience, a variety of things. But at that time, in that discussion, you're all the same. So if you have something to say, say it well. Okay, don't let your body do most of the talking. Let your face do most of the talking. Okay, and if you do not agree with someone, have verbal nods which are much better appreciated than just shaking your head or nodding it yes or no. So just these few things to keep in mind. Aggression is of course never appreciated in discussion, but please make a distinction between aggression and being imposing, being heard. Okay, being insistent on your point is okay, but aggression is never okay. Okay, don't be angry, don't be irritated, don't be frustrated, don't be annoyed. Keep the positivity flowing within you, and keep thinking about the content that you're making and not about how you feel about the other person sitting in front of you. Thank you.